Right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So the Politics live show was discussing the protests planned by a few Ramoning groups that intended to use a Boris Johnson blimp, similar to the blimp used during President Donald Trump's state visit. I'm surprised the Politics live show didn't get the Boris blimp in the studio, like the Victoria Derbyshire programme did with the aforementioned Trump blimp. Now let's check out the panel's discussion on it.
I'm going to show everybody this blimp catch your eye because there are two pro-second referendum marches happening this weekend, and the one tomorrow with a whole bunch of Remain groups, obviously the other one organised by People's Vote. This one will be flying relatively high. What do people think? Is this an effective mode for campaigning and getting people to go on a second referendum march? Carolyn?
Well, it is extraordinary to see the rise of the blimp, and I want to there must be somebody out there making these things. I think it's another sign of the extraordinary polarisation we have. If you're a politician now, you must look back and think, those were the days when there was automatic respect, and it's gone. I personally would love to see us get away from some of this huge personality politics and get back onto the issues. If occasionally it's useful to focus attention on something that really matters, yes, but it's not the kind of politics I want.
What do you think of it? Clever? Witty? Made you smile?
It did make me smile a little bit, I have to
well, there you go.
And, I totally support people's right to protest, even if I don't agree with what they're protesting about. Caroline made a really important point there about, kind of these figures of fun, these personality politicians that we've got these days. Actually, they're not treating their office with the kind of statesmanship or stateswomanship, statescraft that they should do. And so they don't really deserve it. And once they start commanding that respect back off the people, maybe we'll see the end of the blimp, although they are quite fun.
Are you going on the march tomorrow, Adrian? You're in fan of second referendum. Is this the sort of thing that heightens debate or dumbs it down?
On the whole, I would like to see sensible, grown-up people in our political and public debate.
Not Boris Johnson as a blimp?
Not Boris Johnson, not just Boris Johnson. I'm quite pleased to see him as a blimp because it does remind people that he has rather a complex relationship with veracity, which is one thing, that he was one of the leaders of the official Leave campaign in the referendum, which, as you know, has been found guilty of crimes and fraudulent behaviour during that referendum campaign.
Well,
and this is the man whose record gives us no indication whatever of any statesman-like qualities.
Well, Boris Johnson himself hasn't been found guilty of any crimes. There have been spending irregularities, so we have to be a little careful what we say and the claims that we make.
Absolutely, yes. But I think it's as well to remind people that we have the prospect.
Well, it was a controversial claim, the £350 million, and we don't want to dwell on that, but it wasn't a crime. Is it helpful to make a comparison between Boris Johnson and, perhaps in this case, Donald Trump?
I'm not sure it's helpful. I don't think the blimp will make any difference to anyone's views on the subject. I think people are pretty certain about where they stand. But I have to say, I very much agree with the point that this is what it's about, living in a democracy, right? It's brilliant. This is free speech. This is free expression. Why on earth not go and march for something you believe in and have an inflatable Boris Johnson with you?
Right. I think we have to challenge this idea that people believed something that was written on the side of a bus and that they're not kind of self-determining agents of, their own destiny, and that they can't weigh up political arguments and they're just kind of fed with Facebook ads or Russian bots, and they're not actually, political views are not formed by clicking on an advert on Facebook. They are formed in communities and schools, in families, across the country.
But are you saying that nobody believed that we would be able to fund our NHS better if we were to leave the EU?
Well, you still might be able to.
Yeah, you still might be able to, indeed.
But that was the claim, that £350 million a week was going to be diverted to the NHS.
No,
well, they didn't quite say that.
We will save £350 million, right, and let's spend it on the NHS instead, which is a good argument.
Right, Adrian, I'm going to point you in this direction because you're going on the march tomorrow, and there is an issue about whether you think momentum is behind a second referendum or not. There certainly will be lots of people out on the streets tomorrow. But this was reported by BuzzFeed. The People's Vote campaign is at war over whether it should back remaining in the EU. Now, people will find that perplexing. They will presume that people wanting a second second referendum are explicitly on the side of Remain. What's happening here?
Oh, well, it's a muddled report, which you've just sort of reiterated there. This is not about momentum, by the way, which I think is part of the Labour Party movement. This is about the People's Vote campaign. And the People's Vote campaign has to reach out to people on both sides of the argument here, both Remainers and Leavers, to say to them that given the circumstances of the 2016 referendum, given how much more we've learned, given how much clearer the likely consequences are going to be, we should go back and just check that the people really do want this to happen. That's what the People's Vote campaign is
But is everybody in the People's Vote campaign not behind Remaining?
The great majority of them are. Because of course
but
you
not
would
all
not
of them.
expect, not, well, I mean, there are people there who think, yes, let us go and check, who may be indifferent or who may think that some kind of mild temporary.
But does it
Brexit
muddy
might
the
work.
message if the people in charge of the People's Vote campaign can't say explicitly, and we are going out for a second referendum in order to remain?
No,
Look, the
because
People's Vote
the
campaign-
main message of the People's Vote campaign is let us check. If the Leavers like Mo and others are right about this, then the people will say yes, let's continue.
We've had
And
our
if they're
People's
wrong,
Vote. We've
if
come
they're
to our
wrong,
mandate.
after all this new information and after everything
All right,
that's just come out,
that's
then
it.
So we hear the panel finds it quite jovial. My opinion of these blimps are they are a complete waste of time and money and just makes us all look stupid. Same with the Trump one. But what I really wanted to point out was this Ramonian historian who makes the completely false claim that Boris Johnson has been convicted of a crime relating to Brexit and committed fraud somewhere along the lines also. Joe, the commie cumbucket Coburn, has to point out to this so-called historian that Boris has not committed any crime. This guy is clearly suffering from acute Boris derangement syndrome. Now when Joe Coburn points out it was not a crime, you can see the shitweasel laugh because he knows it was not a crime, he just had to put that in the mind of the viewers. It's a common Ramona tactic when they want to put some bullshit out there and can't be as blatantly biased as the BBC. The commentator Mo Lovett points out that the Boris bus is £350 million claims these Ramonas cling to and always smear Boris or Brexit with is not the reason people voted for Brexit. There are numerous other reasons, the Boris bus being the least of them, I'm sure. She also mocks the left-wing media and Ramona's claims about Russian bots and all the other bullshit they spew out because they lost. The Ramonian shitweasel once again comes out with more bullshit, saying we won't be able to fund the NHS better outside the EU. What the actual fuck is he talking about? Have you got any evidence for them claims, or is it just more bullshit from another Ramona who plans to protest tomorrow with this ridiculous Boris Blimp? This guy is either senile or ignorant. I'm inclined to think it's ignorance. Mo once again has to let him know that he's talking shit, of course. How is this guy even on the telly? My left testicle has more brain cells than this fuckpig does. The clip ends with BuzzFeed reporting that the People's Vote campaign is arguing about whether it should back staying in the EU. Now let's be honest, everyone knows the People's Vote wankers are Remain through and through. Like the Lib Dem and Labour Party, they want to revoke the democratic vote in 2016 and remain in the EU. Communist spunk trumpets don't believe in democracy and never will. Now I'm going to end the video there, guys. If it's not Trump derangement syndrome these leftist lunatics suffer from, it's Brexit or Boris derangement syndrome that makes them all crowdfund thousands of pounds for these silly blimps to walk around screaming. Maybe we should crowdfund for a big shitweasel blimp and leave it outside Parliament to remind them what the British people think about these traitorous fuckpigs. Now, as always, let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Remember to like, subscribe and share the video as it helps the channel a lot, and I'll see you all in the next one.